What happens when two powerhouse vocalists, each with decades of experience and global recognition, end up on opposite sides of a conversation that spirals completely out of control? Buckle up, because what unfolded between Reba McEntire and Jennifer Hudson on live television was nothing short of explosive. Today I'm breaking down every single moment of the confrontation that left viewers around the world stunned, replaying the clip just to make sure they heard what they thought they heard. The stage was set on the Jennifer Hudson Show. The theme? A celebration of country music legends. And who better than Reba McEntire to kick it off? Producers expected a warm tribute. Jennifer herself had been hyping it for weeks, calling Reba an inspiration, praising her Oklahoma to superstar journey, and talking about how much her music meant to her personally. It should have been the kind of feel-good interview daytime TV thrives on. But from the second Reba walked on stage, the energy shifted. Maybe it was the steel in her posture. Maybe it was the look in her eyes. Whatever it was, even Jennifer seemed to register it. The audience, still clapping and cheering, had no idea they were about to witness one of the most uncomfortable exchanges in daytime television history. Jennifer started exactly as planned, that signature warm smile lighting up her face. Reba McEntire, everybody. I have to tell you, I'm such a huge fan. Your voice has been the soundtrack to so many lives, including mine. Welcome to the show. But instead of returning the gracious smile, Reba gave Jennifer a look sharp enough to cut glass. Well, Jennifer, I appreciate you having me on. Though I have to say, I was a little surprised by some of the things I heard you've been saying about country music lately. The room seemed to drop 20 degrees. Jennifer's smile faltered just for a beat. I'm sorry, what do you mean? By that? I've only ever spoken positively about country music and the artists who've paved the way. Reba leaned in, her voice carrying that unmistakable edge, a warning tone familiar to anyone who knew her well. See, that's interesting. Because I heard you on another show last week, talking about how country music needs to evolve, needs more diversity, needs fresh voices to keep it from becoming irrelevant. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but doesn't that sound a little like you're saying what we've been doing all these years wasn't good enough? Jennifer blinked, caught off guard. The audience shifted uneasily, sensing the tension. Reba, I think there's been a misunderstanding. When I talked about evolution and diversity, I wasn't criticizing the foundation built by legends like you. I was talking about growth, about opening doors, making the genre more inclusive. Inclusive. Reba repeated the word slowly, almost tasting it. Her voice dripped with skepticism. That's a nice word, isn't it? Very safe, very politically. Correct. But let me ask you something, Jennifer. How long have you really been listening to country music? I don't mean dabbling because it's trendy, or because your publicity team thought it would be good for your image. I mean, really listening. The question hung in the air like a challenge. Jennifer's jaw tightened. This was no longer a scripted interview. It was a showdown. Jennifer steadied her breath. Reba, I've been listening to country music my whole life. My grandmother used to play your records when I was little. I've always had respect for what you and others have accomplished. Reba nodded slowly, processing. That's sweet. Really sweet. But here's what I don't get. If you respect country music so much, why do you keep talking about it like it's broken? Like it needs saving? Because from where I sit, country music's been doing just fine, without celebrities. From other genres telling us what we need to do to stay relevant. The word celebrities hit with pointed weight, drawing a hard line between Reba, the country institution, and Jennifer, the outsider. And from that moment on, there was no going back. Jennifer's eyes flashed, and for the first time since, the interview began. The polished host veneer cracked. "Celebrities from other genres," she repeated slowly, her tone shifting into something sharper, steadier. "Is that what you think I am? Someone who doesn't understand music, doesn't understand struggle, doesn't know what it means to fight for every inch I've gained?" Reba shrugged, a gesture so casual it was cutting. "I don't know." "Jennifer, you tell me." "What I do know is that country music has been telling stories, real stories, about heartbreak, survival, and grit for decades. We didn't need permission to do it, and we certainly didn't need someone telling us we weren't diverse enough, or evolved enough, or relevant enough." The studio had gone silent, the air so heavy it felt like a held breath. Jennifer leaned back, her expression shifting. When she spoke again, her voice carried an edge her fans rarely heard. "You know what, Reba? Let's get something straight right here, right now." The transformation was instant. The gracious host persona was gone, replaced by the fighter who had clawed her way through an industry that tried to box her in. Her posture straightened, her chin lifted, and her words landed like strikes. "I've sold more than 15 million records. I've won an Academy Award, a Grammy. Every accolade I have, I earned with blood, sweat, and a voice that God Himself gave me. So before you question my credibility, or my right to speak on any genre of music, you better check yourself, because I didn't get here by accident. Nothing was handed to me." Reba's eyebrows rose. Instead of retreating, she leaned into the fire, almost relishing it. "Oh, so now it's about trophies and numbers. Cute. Well, I've got a few of those too. Multiple Grammys, CMAs, ACM Awards, 75 million albums sold worldwide, and a career spanning over 4 decades. But please, tell me more about credentials." The polite venom in her delivery drew a low gasp from the audience. Jennifer's hands gripped the arms of her chair, knuckles white, as she fought to keep her voice steady. The fire in her eyes told a different story. "This isn't about resumes. Reba, this is about respect. You walked into my house, sat on my stage, and disrespected me. For what? For daring to say I love country music enough to want to see it grow? For daring to hope more voices could be heard in a genre that's brought me joy since I was a child? What exactly did I say that was so offensive? That country music could evolve? That it could welcome more perspectives? How is that an attack on you?" Reba leaned forward, her voice dropping to a low, dangerous register. "Because, Jennifer, when you say country music needs to evolve, what you're really saying is that what we've been doing all these years isn't good enough. When you say it needs diversity, you're implying the lives we've been living, the stories we've been telling, don't matter as much as whatever new perspective you think belongs here. That is not what I said, and you know it." Jennifer shot back, her composure unraveling now, then sharper, bolder. "Maybe the reason this conversation rattles you is because deep down, you know country music does have a history with exclusion. Maybe you're uncomfortable because you've benefited from a system that kept certain voices out." The words hit like a thunderclap. The audience froze. Reba's face flickered, shock, anger, and then a flash of fury that darkened her entire expression. "Excuse me?" Her voice was a low growl, each syllable precise. "Are you seriously sitting here, on your talk show, in front of this audience, accusing me of keeping people out, accusing me of shutting doors?" Jennifer didn't flinch. If anything, she leaned in, emboldened by the clash, her voice finally free of restraint. "I'm not accusing. I'm stating facts. Country music has a history, one we all know. And when I say it's time for change, time for inclusion, I'm not tearing down its legacy. I'm saying its future could be brighter, that it could embrace voices it's long ignored. The audience didn't make a sound. Even the camera operators seemed to inch closer, instinctively aware that they were capturing a moment that would go down in talk show history. Jennifer's eyes narrowed, her voice dropping into a razor's edge calm that somehow felt more dangerous than shouting. "Let me tell you what delusion looks like, Reba." The room went still. Even the audience, who had been gasping and murmuring all along, seemed to collectively hold their breath. Delusion is thinking that because you've been here longer, your voice is the only one that matters. Delusion is confusing gatekeeping with protecting tradition. And delusion is standing on a stage, in 2025, pretending country music hasn't excluded people who look like me, who sound like me, who come from where I come from. Reba's face flushed crimson. She opened her mouth to respond to it, but Jennifer kept going, her words landing like hammer blows. "You want to talk about arrogance? Arrogance is deciding you get to define who belongs in country music and who doesn't. Arrogance is calling me a celebrity, as if my success somehow makes me less authentic. Arrogance, Reba, is walking into my house and thinking you can tear me down for daring to believe country music can grow." The audience erupted in scattered applause, hesitant at first, then louder, before abruptly cutting off when Reba turned toward them, her glare silencing the room instantly. She stepped even closer to Jennifer, so close the cameras caught every tense flicker of her expression. Her voice was low, controlled, and shaking with fury. "You don't get it, do you? You think this is about me versus you, about old versus new. But it's not. It's about respect. Respect for a genre that doesn't need saving. Respect for artists who fought their way here long before you decided it was trendy to care. You want to change country music? Fine. But don't you dare stand here and call me a gatekeeper." Jennifer didn't blink. Her voice, cool and unwavering, cut through the silence. "Then stop acting like one." The words hit like a gunshot. The audience gasped. One of the producers audibly muttered, "Cut to commercial." But the cameras didn't move. Reba's chair was still pushed back from when she'd stood, teetering on its wheels like a physical reminder of how far this had gone off script. For a heartbeat, it looked like she might storm out. Instead, she locked eyes with Jennifer one last time. "You'll regret this," she said quietly, the threat hanging heavy in the air. Jennifer's reply was just as soft, but far steadier. "No, Reba. What I'll regret is letting moments like this pass without telling the truth." The studio sat in stunned silence, two women, face to face, refusing to yield. And everyone watching knew this wasn't just a talk show anymore. This was history. Delusion is thinking that loving something means it can never change or grow. Delusion is being so afraid of evolution that you attack anyone who suggests there might be room for improvement. Delusion is coming on someone else's show and making it all about your insecurities instead of celebrating the music we both claim to love. Reba's face flushed crimson, her hands balled into fists at her sides. "Insecurities? You think this is about insecurities? This is about respect. This is about understanding that some things are sacred, and country music is one of them. It's about recognizing that just because you can sing doesn't mean you understand the heart and soul of what makes this genre special." Jennifer's voice cracked through the silence like a whip. "And what makes you think I don't understand it? What makes you think my appreciation for country music is somehow less real than yours? Because I didn't grow up in Nashville? Because I wasn't raised on a ranch? Because my skin color is different from yours?" The words detonated in the air. The entire studio froze. Reba's face went pale, her composure slipping for the first time. "Don't you dare!" Reba snapped, her voice trembling. "Don't you dare try to make this about race. This has nothing to do with the color of your skin, and you know it." Jennifer stepped closer, her voice rising to match the weight of the moment. "Does it? Because from where I'm standing, every time a black artist expresses love for country music, or dares to suggest it could use more diversity, suddenly there's a problem. Suddenly, we're outsiders. Suddenly, we don't understand. Suddenly, we're accused of trying to change something that doesn't need to be changed." Reba shook her head, retreating half a step as though the words had struck her physically. "That is not fair, and that is not true. I have supported plenty of artists from all backgrounds. This is not about race. This is about authenticity." "Authenticity?" Jennifer's voice dripped disbelief. "And who decides what's authentic, Reba? Who gets to be the gatekeeper of what's real country music and what's not? Because it sure looks like every time someone who doesn't look like you wants to be part of the conversation, suddenly their authenticity is up for debate." The confrontation had reached a dangerous pitch. The audience sat frozen, wide-eyed. Even the camera operators seemed to stop breathing. Reba glanced around the studio, as if only now realizing just how far the interview had spiraled out of her control. Jennifer stood her ground, eyes burning with unshed tears. "This interview is over," Jennifer declared, her voice steady, final. "Security, please escort Miss McEntire off the premises." Reba's jaw dropped. She sputtered before finally finding her voice. "You're throwing me off your show. You're actually having me removed because I disagreed with you." Jennifer stepped back behind her desk, never breaking eye contact. "I'm having you removed because you came here with disrespect. You launched personal attacks, and you've shown yourself to be everything that's wrong with the gatekeeping mentality that keeps music from growing. I don't need that energy in my space." As security moved in, Reba raised her hands. "I don't need your security. I can walk myself out. But this conversation isn't over, Jennifer. Not by a long shot." Jennifer adjusted her jacket and looked straight into the camera. "Actually, Reba, it is over. Completely over." And with that, one of the most explosive confrontations in talk show history came to a close, leaving millions to wonder how two of music's most celebrated women could clash so bitterly over authenticity and respect. The fallout would dominate headlines for months, but in that moment, all anyone could do was watch as Reba McEntire walked off the Jennifer Hudson show stage, likely for the last time. So, what do you think? Was Reba justified in her concerns about gatekeeping country music? Or did she cross the line with her confrontational approach? Drop your thoughts in the comments below, and make sure to subscribe for more stories that dive deep into the moments when celebrities drop their public personas and show us who they really are.